Alrighty guys, it's Kristen and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to start filming my how to rate my bookshelf. I already know that this is going to be probably a multi-parter video just because from filming my August reading wrap-up, that was like 40 minutes and that was only 12 books, and I definitely own more than 12 books clearly because I need 2 bookshelves. So I'm going to try and get through as much as I can tonight, and then you might see me in some different clothes, or depending on how long it is, I probably will just break it into multiple parts of videos and I'll post them on different days. So without further explanation, let's get into it. I'm going to show you guys my bookshelves. So this is what they look like. I have them organized by last name of the author, and then they go in order of this series. So like if I have more than one book, they're by the same person, they're in alphabetical order. So that is how my bookshelves are organized. And before I get into rating things, I'm going to tell you guys about my reading journey, because like that's kind of why we're here, right? So I was that kid in like basically since I could read up until like high school. I was always reading. I always had a book. I always wanted more books. I was always at the library until I think high school is actually kind of where I stopped. Like I would read a lot during like the summer, but then like once school was in session, maybe I'd read a couple books, maybe I wouldn't. Like I'd always have like a kick where like I'd go through like reading constantly, and then like I wouldn't read as much in other parts of the year. So after high school, I really didn't read any books just to enjoy reading, because as I've already mentioned, I was a chemical engineering major, and I was so busy working 2 jobs and going to school full time and all of the reading that we had to do for class, and then actually trying to have a social life, and I was in extracurriculars. So, you know, I really didn't get to have hobbies. My favorite question was people be like, oh, what do you do for fun? And I'm like, sleep. I was a vegetable. I would just come home and lay in bed and watch YouTube and movies, and that was like kind of my it. That was my it. Unless like I didn't have internet, like if I move into a new house, then I would pick up like a book to read. That's actually how I got my Discovery of Witches book, which you will see later. But yeah, so now that I'm in grad school and I have slightly more time on my hands and I'm trying to be better about work-life balance, I'll read before I go to bed because it helps me sleep better, which I have a terrible time sleeping. So that I found has really helped me go to bed a lot faster. And I remember why I loved books again. So my big reading journey was I had all these books from high school and middle school where I had either thrifted them in the middle of the series, or I had just like bought the first book and never finished the series. So starting in January, my goal was to go through and finish reading all the series that I never read. And so that is how I amassed my collection that it is today, and led to my love of books again. So without further ado, let's look at the first shelf of my bookshelf. Alrighty, so the first books that I have on my bookshelf are the May Bird trilogy by Jodi Lynn Anderson, and this was childhood nostalgia for me. So do not eat my books, Bean. I see you. My chinchilla likes to chew on my books, and deterring her from my bookshelf is a task all of it itself. And so sitting on the floor while she's out with books is probably not the best idea, but it's fine. It's fine. Anyways, oh, you want to make a debut? No, you just want to get closer to the books. Okay, so I originally read the first book, which is May Bird and the Ever After, and I read it in, I want to say middle school, and I never ended up finishing the series, but like I loved this series. Like I remember rereading the first book over and over and over and over again, I don't know why I didn't read the rest of the series. Maybe our library didn't have it or whatever. But the first book is May lives in this very small town in West Virginia where lots of people go missing. And the reason why they go missing is because there's a portal to the afterworld in these woods. And they all get trapped going through the portal by the water demon that guards it. And then they're never seen again because they die. So that journey is about her falling through one of the portals and how she gets through the afterlife and learning about the boogeyman and trying to get back home to her mom. So I don't think in the first book that she ends up getting back because she gets a letter from the ghosts, the Lady of the North, which are really, really old ghosts in the northern part of like the afterworld continent. And the continent is run by, it's like, I don't remember the name of the bad guy, but it's run by this bad guy who like took over the afterworld and like made it terrible and like released the boogeyman and like has all these little henchmen doing his little things for him to terrorize the world. And the first book is like her entering the world and then her starting her journey on the way to the north because the Lady of the North can get her home. Hey. And then the second book is May Bird Among the Stars. And so this one goes through her going to the Lady of the North, following her journey, and then her getting back home to her mom. And then the last book is, I think a couple years have passed, and she has a dream, or somehow she knows that the ghost world is in trouble, and she ends up going back and then defeating the bad guy and living her life after that. So I'm going to rate this as a series instead of individual books because I read this back in like January, so I just don't feel like at this point in time I could give it like a good solid rating based individually on books. But I'm going to give this a 4.5. I loved reading these books. Actually, you know what? We're going to give it a 5. We're going to give it a 5. I loved reading these books. If you like death, I mean, it's not like creepy scary. It's like made for, I don't know what the age rating is on this. But, you know, it's made, ages 8 to 12. Ayo. So, like, there's nothing really scary about these books. But, like, there are ghosts in it. There's specters. There's lots of adventure. She goes with her cat. So, her little cat is, like, her little sidekick. So, I highly recommend. I love these books. I will always have them. Much like Aragon that I was talking about in another video where I was doing, like, my reading wrap-up of August, I think. So the next one on the list is Nevada Barr's Winter Study. So this is a team goes to the Isle Royale National Park in the middle of Lake Superior, which is one of the 5 Great Lakes, and I'm from Michigan originally, so like obviously a little near and dear to my heart. My Aunt Kathy gave me this book when I was young, and it's about surveillancing the wolf, and a female team member dies, and like Anna's convinced that they're being stalked, and like it just kind of becomes a little bit more scary thriller like. I remember reading this and liking it, so I'm not gonna rate it just because like I remember reading it and liking it, but I can't give it a rating because it's been like a decade since I've probably read it, close to a decade, which is gross for me to say. Makes me feel old. I have a lot of books that are like this though, where like I haven't read them in so long, and more recently, if I read a book and I don't like it, I try to sell it because then at least I can get money for more books that I might enjoy on my TBR. But like I don't know what to do with books that are like this, that are like nostalgic books that I've had. Like part of me is like, we'll get rid of them because like you're never gonna read it again, and why not get more money out of it? But then part of me is like, but I did like them. So I don't know. Tell me what you guys think I should do about the books that I have that are like that. Should I sell them? Should I keep them? I'm quite the little hoarder when it comes to like books and like memento things. And then next I have Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice. Not gonna lie, I haven't read this book. I think a library was doing like a really cheap sale on like books that they were giving away, and I really liked the look of this book, and that's why I have it. Also, I like that has a little tassel. So it came with like a cute like little Reader's Digest from 1984 about the book. So I actually haven't read this book. I probably should, because it's like a classic and it's illustrated too, which I like. So I probably should read this book because it's a classic. Maybe I have a couple other classics too on here that we'll see later. So maybe I should do a little video about reading the classics that I've never read. Anywho, the next book is Animal Ark's Wolf at the Window, and this is just, I had this as a kid and I loved this book. Like, it's about Mandy and she's visiting Scotland, and she sees these wolves, and like they're scared of the townspeople, or the people are scared of them in the town, and they're trying to send them away, and this girl just loves these wolves. And once again, it's another book where like I have not read it in so long that I can't rate it. It exists in time immemorial in my brain. I should probably give it to my little cousin Max because he'd probably like it, but I haven't yet, so that is what that is. Next is Mr. Popper's Penguins, also just another book that I've had all my life, so I've kept it around. Of course I love Mr. Popper's Penguins though, and especially I love the Jim Carrey movie Mr. Popper's Penguins. It's so cute. Especially in the end, how like he finally like just wants to be a dad to his kids again. So good book. Can't rate it. So this is, I don't know how to say that first name. So I'm just gonna show you guys the author real close up because I don't want to butcher it. And this is A Master of Gin, and I really like this book. Like I would give this book a 5. And I actually got this from Literati bookstore in Ann Arbor. So if you're near Ann Arbor, please go. This is a beautiful bookstore. I didn't even know it existed until I was leaving to go to where I am for grad school. And my best friend from undergrad, Ryan, he and I, like, we went out and hung out together before I left for like one little hurrah. And we went to the bookstore and like looked at all the books, and I ended up buying this one as like a memento of like our trip that day. And I love this book. If you like the supernatural, if you like mysteries, if you like action, like this is the book for you. And also the main character is like a bad woman. Like she is like gonna fight everybody, and there ain't nothing you can say about it. Like, she's awesome. So this is set in Cairo in 1912, and it's though Fatimia El Sharari, I'm probably saying that wrong, is the youngest woman working for the Ministry of Alchemy, Enchantments, and Supernatural Entities. She's certainly not a rookie, especially after preventing the destruction of the universe last summer. So when someone murders the members of a secret brotherhood dedicated to one of the most famous men in history, Al-Haziz, I'm also saying that wrong, Agent Fatimia is called to the case. And she's going to open up the veil of the magic world, and this murderer who's like trying to band all of the regular, ordinary people of the city together to face off against the ministry, she has to try and restore peace. And I liked it. I really enjoyed it. It's a really good book. Highly recommend, especially if you like the supernatural, mysteries, and like just a ton of action. So the next book I have in front of me is The Cinder Spires, The Aeronauts Windlast, first in a new series by Jim Butcher. And my roommate and I, at the end of May last year, we started going on pokewalks around our neighborhood because why not? And we had a little free library in our neighborhood that like one, it was a Pokestop. 2, our route would always take us past it, so I would always look through to see what was in there, because that's when I was starting to finally get back into like reading. And I picked up this book, and I read it on the train on my way to Chicago, and I finished it, and I love this book. I would give this book a 5 too. Especially because I was so mad that I don't remember when this came out. When did this come out? It wasn't recent. I know that it's a few years old. Oh, hey, there's my bookmark I was looking for. I'm the chaotic good when it comes to bookmarks. I typically just use receipts or anything that I have, envelopes. In my one book, I'm using the paw print of my dog that died last year, and in the other book, right, I was having photos of my little cousin because I got little like cards from his sports activities, so I was using those. I lost one though, so I think I don't know. Oh, I think I'm using a plant lady sticker in my other book as my bookmark. When did this come out? First printing September 2015. Okay, so this came out almost a decade ago, and there isn't a second book yet. Jim Butcher, I want to know where the second book is. I was so sad when I finished reading this, and no second book yet. So, Jim, can you get on that for me? Because, like, loved this book. Once again, it's about magic. If you clearly can't see a theme about the books that I like, let me tell you, there's a theme. So, since time immemorial, the spires have sheltered humanity, towering for miles over the mist-shrouded surface of the world. Within their halls, aristocratic houses have ruled for generations, developing scientific marvels, fostering trade alliances, and building fleets of airships to keep the peace. And so, needless to say, I don't want to read the whole thing, but, like, people live on, like, a little island. They're, like, this reminds me of Treasure Island. Treasure Island? Is that what I'm thinking of? It's the Disney movie where, like, they all fly in the sky with the pirates and, like, the ships and the robots, and they go with the aliens on a different planet. I'm pretty sure it's Treasure Island. And that gives me big Treasure Island vibes because they have air fleets, and they are run by crystals, and the main character's family, like, is one of the people that usually grows, like, the best crystals ever, and she, instead of deciding to take on the family business, wants to actually, she ends up joining, like, this academy to become, like, a warrior, I think it is. Yeah, okay, well, this doesn't say anything about the main character, but, she goes to join this academy where, like, that's where you train to become, like, a pilot of a ship, essentially, and be part of the crew and, like, defend, like, the empire that's been built. And so it goes through her journey of going to the school which her family did not want her going to, and, like, kind of her journey through dealing with all the challenges of being a woman in the captain's world, and like, participating in the war, because there's people that live below ground, and like, they're all below ground because the surface of the earth, for whatever reason, and, like, nobody goes up to the surface of the earth anymore because, for whatever reason, it was destroyed, and these creatures that are from the surface of the earth are running around in, like, the tunnels, and it's a big whole hoopla, and, like, her little sidekick is also a cat, but the cat can talk this time around. And, like, it's very, I really enjoy this book. I'm doing a very bad job at describing what this book is, but if you like action, if you like fantasy, almost kind of, I wouldn't say it's sci-fi, but, like, it's kind of sci-fi-esque with fantasy, and it's really great. I really recommend, please go look it up, because I'm doing a very bad job at describing it, but it is beautiful. It's a beautiful book. I loved the book. Was very angry that the other book isn't out yet. Anywho, I have Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte, which also, haven't read this one either. Again, I think I probably picked this up at the same one I picked it up at. It also has Little Worlds Reading Digest from 1984 in it. And I think it's also illustrated, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it's also illustrated. But once again, just I liked the way the book looked. It was probably super cheap, and I picked it up. Still haven't read it, so is what it is. This is Heroes.com, The Virus Attacks by Andy Briggs. And I think that this is actually the second one in the season because it says Heroes.com 2 on it. Let me get a little closer so you can actually read that. So I'm going to go with, I probably did not read the first one, and I picked this one up somehow. I remember reading it and liking it, and this is one of the books where I'm like, I should just sell this because I'm never going to read this again. But then I'm like, but what if you do want to read it again? Like, I'm not... My life. Okay, so the next book we're talking about is Dark Wood by N.E. Breen. I really like this book. When I originally read it, I would give it a 4, and it's Annie looked frantically toward the forest and then back at the approaching light, then toward the forest again. The forest belonged to the Kinderstock. Whatever the people of Door County took by way of lumber, the Kinderstock took back in livestock and human life. The thudding grew louder until she could hear the crunch of stones under her uncle's boots. She looked down at the cats. They were sitting just within the ring of light from her lantern, staring at her calmly. Oh no, this. Anything but this. She opened the little glass door in the lantern and blew out the light. The darkness rode over her, a landslide and avalanche. The black air, heavy as earth, filled her throat and banked in her lungs. Her eyelids, too, felt heavy as though they were caked in darkness. With the effort, she closed her eyes and opened them, but with no difference between the two. And so she lives in Howland, and one minute the sky is light, the next is dark, and it's suffocatingly dark, and that's when the Kinderstock come out to steal children, and Andy overhears her uncle making terrible plans for her. She flees, and the only place she can flee is the forest. And on her journey through the depths of the forest, she gets to a palace that's ever closer to an evil that's darker and more vast than the night itself. Eloquent, suspenseful, and imbued with dark fairy tale motifs, this is a rooting coming-of-age story about a girl who must learn to trust her instincts in order to lead those who she is destined to rule. So kind of Fae vibes. I put the book jacket on upside down on this book, apparently. I, for whatever reason, really thought that there was a second book to this. I thought it was a series, but I'm pretty sure that there isn't a second one in this book. But I really liked this book when I did read it. Once again, it's been so long since I've read this book, I really can't give it a rating. But I do know that I liked it. So if that sounds like it is up your alley, I totally recommend to read it. Next on my list is The 9 Lives of Chloe King by Liz Braswell. And you guys, this book, so this one is 3-in-1, which I did not know when I originally bought it all those years ago. But let me tell you, I can't tell you how many times I reread this book. I love this book. Like, this book is my everything. So 5 stars across the board, clearly. This is about Chloe, and she's in high school. I don't remember what year in high school. Okay, well, she's 16, so she's probably like a sophomore. I don't think she's a freshman. I think she might be a sophomore. But on her 16th birthday, she finds out that she has, well, first off, she dies. It starts with her dying, because then she finds out that she's like a cat lady. I don't remember what they're specifically called, but like there are supernatural species that have like cat-like reflexes, and like their claws can come out. They have 9 lives. There's a religion of the cat people, and people who follow the religion very closely can end up with more cat-like attributes, such as in ears and tail. And this is her navigating high school while trying to also deal with that. And then you learn that she's actually like royalty, and she's supposed to rule these people. And she's 16, baby. She can't even, she doesn't even, like, high school's bad enough for a 16-year-old, much less ruling a whole, like, slew of people. And so, like, it goes through her journey of, like, getting through high school and going to, like, this commune where all the cat people, like, tend to congregate at so that it's safer for them, and learning their traditions and their religions. And she likes one guy, but she likes another, and going through like that little love triangle that happens, or at least I think there's a love triangle in here. And like just cinematic gold. And there's a TV show. I haven't watched a TV show yet, but it is on my to-do list to watch this TV show and compare it to the books, and hopefully it's good, because I don't know what I would do if it's not good. I watched the Discovery of Witches book series, the All Souls trilogy. That has a TV show too, and I did watch that one. And while they don't follow the books in terms of time, like some events happen before they're supposed to, and then they like go back. I don't know. I'll talk about when I get to those books. But there's a TV show that I want to watch. But I love this book series. If there's one book, if you are into supernatural, adventure-y, kickery, kind of teenaginess, look no further. Get this book. This is gold, in my opinion. Absolute gold. Next is Holly Black's Book of Night. I really like this book too. I read this when I was hiking in Hocking Hills, and I loved this book. So Charlie Hall has never found a lock she couldn't pick, a book she couldn't steal, or a bad decision she wouldn't make. She spent half her life working for glotomists, magicians who manipulate shadows to peer into locked rooms, strangle people in their beds, or worse. Glotomists guard their secrets greedily, creating an underground economy of grimoires, and to rob their fellow magicians, they need Charlie Hall. Now she's trying to distance herself from past mistakes but bartending at a local dive, she's still entirely too close to the corrupt underbelly of the Brookshires? Not to mention that her sister Posey is desperate for magic, and that Charlie's shadowless and possibly soulless boyfriend Vince has been hiding things from her past. When a terrible figure from her past returns, Charlie descends into a maelstrom of murder and lies, determined to survive. She's up against a cast of doppelgangers, mercurial billionaires, glotomists, and the people she loves best in the world, all try to steal a secret that will give them a vast and terrible power. And this book, I could not put it down. The only reason why I'm giving it a 4.5 out of 5 is just because I think it was the ending was a little off for me. There's going to be more in this series. I already know that there's going to be another book in here. But I mean, I really liked it. Like, Charlie, she is like kind of a criminal, and the person comes back from her past and is like, hey, I need you to steal this from me. And it's like the worst, like, you don't steal from this person. Like, she remembers attempting to steal from this person when she was a kid, and like, I'm pretty sure she saw a kid get murdered or like severely injured, and that's why she's so scared. And do I do the plot? There's a plot twist in here about her boyfriend that throws you through a loop. So if you like it when the person is like the bad guy, when the main character is the bad guy, trying to be a good guy, and like going through all, it's good. It's just good. It's good. I highly recommend that book, clearly. Next is the Land of Stories books. So the last book is on my second shelf, which we will get to next. And if you guys haven't already watched my August wrap-up that went up in September, I go through and I rate all of these books individually in that one, and most of them get 4s to 4.5. So as a whole on the series, I'd probably say the whole series is like a 4. I mean, it's obviously written for like people much younger than me. They're good books. I liked them. Don't get me wrong, I like them. They're good books, but well, that's not true, because actually I was at a bookstore and I looked at the first book and I read it and I was like, that sounds so cool. I think I would really like to read that. And I didn't have money to buy it at the time, and I came home and I was like, oh, I already have that book and I already read it. So I mean, I liked these. I like them. They're good. Take a read if you like fairy tales and adventure. If you want a more detailed description, go watch my August wrap-up video. I will link it in the description. But let's move on to the second shelf of my books. Alrighty, now we're on to my second shelf. So the first book on that shelf is The Land of Stories, The World Collides by Chris Colfer. So we just talked about these books. Go read the wrap-up. Go watch the wrap-up if you're interested. The next books on that bookshelf are the Nightshade series. I also love these books to death. Chloe King in these books kept me alive. I would constantly reread them. I don't know why I didn't buy new books, but I was just like, I'll just keep rereading these. So once again, I will never give these books up. They're in my blood, so they get a 5-star. So there's 3 books in the Nightshade series, and then there's 2 books that happen before. At least I think they're before. We'll talk about the original ones first that I know for sure. And these are by Andrea Kramer, if I didn't already say that. So you have Nightshade, Wolfsbane, and Blood Rose. And so, dear Lord, what happened to this book? I don't know what happened to this book. I think I just, moving kind of did something to it. Anywho, so also I think my brother read these at some point, so maybe he did it. Maybe it's his fault. But okay. She risked her life to save his, believing she'd never see him again, but he has returned, challenging her destiny as Alpha Wolf, leaving her doubting her past and fearing her future. So, if you like werewolves, this is your book. Also, like, supernatural creatures of all sorts and types. And there's, like, a guard of, like, supernatural beings, I think, in this book. But, let me figure out the main character's name for y'all, and then I can explain what happens in this book. So, Calla. So she's the daughter of the Alpha. I think she's the daughter of the... Yeah, she's the daughter of the Alpha of her group, and she's in high school, or her pack, and she's in high school, and in the high school there's also another pack, and her and that pack's, like, going to be Alpha are kind of a thing, and, like, it's always just assumed that, like, they'll always be a thing, they're gonna get together, like, that's how it is, and I think it's on Samhain, on Samhain is, like, when they're supposed to, like, tie the knot, essentially, and Calla, I think she dreams about this guy, and then she ends up finding him, and she's like, what? And so, like, they go through the journey of, like, him starting school, and, like, who he is, and everything that accumulates between the little love triangle that's going on in here, and I love this book. I love this book. I highly recommend this book. And then, of course, we have the second book, Wolfsbane, which is she's captured by the enemy. She must decide friend or foe, truth or denial, freedom or destiny. But time is running out and lives are on the line. Does she have what it takes to save her pack and herself? And so I think this is after, I think her and the non-alpha guy end up getting together, and she ends up running away on Samhain instead of, following her destiny. And this goes through that. I can't say much because it has been a long time since I read these books. I should reread them again, just for the nostalgia of it. I should read them again. And they're not too bad. I mean, we all know that not too bad for me is not too bad for other people. Yeah, this is less than 400 pages, so, like, I could do that. Maybe I'll read those this year again, just for my little heart. And then, of course, we have Blood Rose, and there's no backing down now. It's time to fight for freedom or surrender to destiny. Failure is not an option. The Pack's alliance is crucial to their victory, but in the end, the future of the world lies in her hands. And honestly, I don't remember what happens in this book. other than I know that I love it. I loved it when I read it. So I highly recommend these books. And then you have Rift and Rise. And Rift is a prequel to the Nightshade series, and then Rise is like the sequel to the prequel. And it's about Ember. And I'm gonna be honest, I don't know what happens in these books. I don't know if I never read them. Like, I feel like I had to have read them. So, I don't know if I just never read them and I just forgot. I don't know if I never read them or if I read them and I forgot. But I'm going to go with I probably never read these because their spines are not like these spines. Well, I got to get close up. Like, these ones, you can tell that I read these many times. These ones, they look pristine. So I'm going to go with, I don't think I read these. And so, therefore, I should read them and then read the rest of the series. Who can deny? So, the next book is De Camelio? The Tale of Despero. I watched the movie and then I got this book and I love this book. I'd give it a 4, 4.5. Like, it is so cute. I love little Despero and the princess named P and the rats. And I love this book. If you guys haven't seen the movie yet, what are you doing? Go watch the movie with its giant little ears. But I love the book too. Even though I read it after I watched the movie. Go read the book. Watch the movie. Another classic that I own, but I have not read. Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. I'm going to go with, I got this at the same place that I got the other ones, because it has that lovely Reader's Digest from 1985. We got a year upgrade, baby. Anywho, illustrated edition. I should also read this book, because it's on my shelf, and it's been on my shelf for a long time, and I haven't. The Language of Flowers. This is another book that my Aunt Kathy got me, and I remember reading it and liking it. The details are a little fuzzy for me, though. I think the lady is a florist, and she's sending secret messages with flowers, and it's been a very, 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 very long time since I've read this book. But I remember enjoying it. I'm not gonna say go out of your way to get this book like I have the others, but it was a good book. One of those were like, should I get rid of it? Should I keep the books that I have accumulated? Right along with this one, which is Christine Faham's Night Game, which is Gator. It's either Gator or Gotter. Or Gator. I don't know. It looks like Gator, like alligator. Fontenot of the Special Forces Paranormal Squad. Another theme, baby. Can't refuse an urgent request to save the elusive Iris Flame Johnson, a victim of the same horrific experiments that warped Gator. Now unleashed, she's a red-haired weapon of unimaginable destructive powers, a walking time bomb bent on revenge in the sultry bayous of New Orleans and hunted by a shadowy assassin. It's Gator's job to reel Flame in, but can two people haunted by violent betrayals trust the passion that soon ignites between them, or is one of them just playing another seductive and deadly night game? So, he's kind of a detective. He goes after her. I liked it when I read it. Once again, haven't read it in a very long time, though, so take that with what you will. Next, we have my dear Lucy Foley. Lucy Foley? My Lucy Foley books. So I just rated the guest list in my August wrap-up. I rated this a 4.5. If you want more details, go watch that. Shameless plug. And then the first one that I read of her books was The Paris Apartment, and I would say I'd probably give this like a 4.5. Maybe a 4.75, because I liked this one more than I liked this one, just because I felt like this one kind of got into like the action a little bit more, and there was a little bit more like mystery in this one. Like this one I was like, I don't understand why we're talking about these things for so long and like what the point in the play is. This one, everybody's in on the secret because her brother, something terrible happens to her. She ends up breaking the law, and she runs to go to her brother. But when she shows up at her brother's apartment, he's missing, and like nobody knows what happened to her. None of the people in the apartment complex know what happens to him. Like, he was on some big case trying to crack something open because he's a journalist, and she ends up going through and finding out about all these people and like the don't eat that and the dark little secret that they had. So I highly recommend The Paris Apartment. There is some crazy loops and turns and twists in here, but I highly recommend this book. I loved this book. This book was so good. I really want The Hunting Party by her now too, because I'm sold. So highly recommend you go read. Next on my list are my Cornelia Funick. I think it's Funick. She's a German writer. All of her books that I have, that I've accumulated, and the first one is The Dragon Rider, or just Dragon Rider. So this book is also just nostalgia for me. I got this at a thrift store and I never finished the rest of the series, so this was part of the I want to finish reading my childhood books. And it's about a dragon, and like the dragons are all dying out and humans are coming into like their cave and the valley that they live in, and so the only solution is for them to find somewhere else to live. And there's always been this story that there was a group of dragons that lived in the rim of heaven, and nobody's seen them in centuries. So Fire Drake, with his brownie Sorrel, because dragons like to ride with brownies in this particular work of fiction, and they go out looking, and they stop in the city to get a map from a rat so that they know where they're going. And that's when they meet Ben, and they go on this journey flying through Europe and meeting all these supernatural creatures and ultimately trying to find the Rim of Heaven, which they do end up finding. And there is the golden dragon. What is his name? I cannot remember the name of the antagonist in here, but he eats dragons, and he's been searching for dragons for like ever to exterminate them. And like the last dragons that were from the Rim of Heaven, they escaped him, and so now he's hunting down Fire Drake. And I love this book. I would give this book like a 4.75. I love this book. And then the second book in the series is The Griffin's Feather. And so in the first book, Ben and Fire Drake and Sorrel, on their journey through the desert, they end up finding Barnabas Greenbloom, who is like a supernatural specialist, holds these creatures in very high revere. I think that's the right word, like great esteem. And Ben actually ends up going to live with him because Ben is an orphan. And so like they take him in, and in this book they are running like a supernatural creature haven for all of the creatures that have been going extinct or they're hunted for one reason or another. And in this book, Pegasus, there's a Pegasus couple, and they have eggs, because that's how Pegasus birth their children in this book, is that they have eggs. And the mom ends up dying because of, I want to say it's because of Barnabas's like arch rival kills them, or I don't remember how, but the mom dies, and the problem is that they need the mom's warmth to help the eggs grow, because like the eggs are a certain size, and then the babies like grow to the egg size, and then once they're the egg size, you have to grow the egg so that they can keep growing. So without the mom, they don't have that ability, and the only thing that would be warm enough to do what needs to be done is a griffin's feather. So they go on a journey to this island to find these griffins, and like you have this one younger griffin who like just wants peace on his island, and all the other griffins are kind of in this band under the one like mighty leader who like is trading creatures with like poachers and like kills humans and is just an all-around terrible person. And so, like, there's the feud there, and you have to go through all of the journey to solve that, and they get the Griffin's Feather at the end. Sorry, I spoiled it, but they do. I would also give this book a 4.75. I mean, it's different than the first one, but it's still a really good book. I would still recommend it. And then the last book is the Aurelia Curse. Help me out if you know how to say that word right. And in this one, Barnabas's creatures are going extinct, and once, like, there's this birth of all creature, the Aurelia, and once she kind of recognizes that, like, creatures are dying out, she surfaces, and she has these pods with her, and you need a creature from each kind of the element to take a pod, and you get new creatures from it. And Barnabas's rival is trying to steal the pods for immortality. And so you go through the journey of the family and everybody trying to make it to California, where the Aurelia is supposed to, like, show up, and how they're trying to protect her, and all the fantastic journeys that they go to do that. And so it's another really good book. I would give this one a 4.5 as well. And then we also have the Ink. I would call this the Ink trilogy, because they all start with Ink, by Cornelia Funick as well. So we have Inkheart, Ink Spell, and Ink Death. And these are also just pure nostalgia of, like, I remember reading this book in the library in high school and not reading the others, and I decided to go for it and I read it. So I did, and I love these books. I would give this whole series like a 4.75. I really love them. And so Inkheart is Maggie's father. When he reads aloud from a book, he brings characters from the book to the real world. And he did that when Maggie was a little girl, and the trade-off is whatever you bring out of the book, something has to go back into the book. And so Maggie's mom went into the book when he read Inkheart to her. And Capricorn, or maybe, was it Capricorn? Capricorn and Basta, they come out of the book. And, like, they're these really terrible guys, because Inkheart is kind of set in, like, medieval times. Like, I would say it's very similar in setting to, like, Aragon, where, in, like, terms of, like, timeline-wise. And they've been on the run because Capricorn and Basta want him to read them back into the book. Oh, and Dustfinger comes out too. But they want him to read them back into the book, and he can't. He doesn't know how. And so they've been on the run for years of Maggie's life, just picking up and going, so that these guys don't capture him, and they end up getting to him. And this book is going through the journey of them capturing them and defeating Capricorn. I really love this book. 4.75 all the way. And so Ink Spell is, in this book, they learn how to write characters into the story. And so they write themselves into the story, and then they get to go on the journey of being an Inkheart and going through all the magical things that happen there and all the bad guys that are also there. And they go there. The tale hasn't changed. In the tale, it's not like it was in the original author's description. It's much more threatening and has evolved beyond the book. And they're trying to figure out how to right the wrongs of the charmed world and how to get back home, essentially, or how to get her mom and Mo into the book, and going through defeating all the bad guys. Well, part of the journey of defeating the bad guys in the series. And then last but not least is, I would give this a 4.75 as well. And this is Ink Death, and it's the last one, and I would give this one also a 4.75. I really do enjoy these books. And so I think it's in this book, the Dark Adler, I think it is. It's the Dark Adler, the Black Adler, one of the two. He is like the bad guy that takes over, and he is scared of dying, and so Mo is like, oh, well, I'll make you this book, and you'll be immortal in it until someone writes, like, you are dead in it. But he is a little tricky, and the way he makes the book, he makes it specifically so that it falls apart so that he'll die. And the Adler kind of finds out about that and like does everything in his power to stop it. And so that's this journey of like the Adler trying to stop it and then them ultimately killing him. Are they actually going to go home? Are they going to stay there? I already know what happens, but I love these books. These are really great books, and they are fantastic bits and pieces of my life that I will forever hold dear in my heart. And let's see, how many more shelves we got to go? We got 2, 3, 4, 4.5. We got 4.5 to go. So I think that I'm actually gonna stop this video here because I'm already at like 54 minutes and I don't want to start a new shelf and then get halfway through it and then have to do the other half in another part of the video. And I also don't want this to be an hour-long video because I know hour-long videos are just hard for me to watch when I'm watching YouTubers that I like, so I don't want to put you guys through that. So I am gonna stop here and I will see you guys in part 2. Bye.